الموضوع هو موضوع العدالة المالية مع أفراد الأسرة. So financial justice with family members. And this subject is really important. Why? Because we Muslims tend to neglect this concept. We feel like, oh, we're dealing with family members, so we don't have to worry about it. We don't have to worry about treating everyone in the family with justice. They are only my children, they are my sisters, they will forgive me at the end. No, if there is some shortcomings or not. But in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, commands justice with everyone. Like we heard this famous ayah from Surah Al-Nahl, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ وَإِيتَاءِ ayah that many khatibs in Muslim countries recite this ayah at the end of every Friday speech, right? And this ayah starting with the concept of justice. إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُ بِالْعَدْلِ وَالْإِحْسَانِ. Allah commands justice. So justice is the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And justice has to be done with everyone, including family members. We should not neglect their rights. Whether it's we're talking about spouses, talking about siblings or children or parents. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the proof that this subject is very important, if you compare the laws of inheritance and the rulings of salat or zakat, when it came to salat, he commanded us to follow the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there is a general command to perform the salah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us about the details, how we should perform the salah. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli." Pray as you have seen me praying, right? So Muslims were supposed to observe the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and just follow his sunnah. But when it came to this matter, inheritance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about numbers. He did not leave it to anyone because it's an important subject and no one has a right to change the laws of inheritance. We will deal with two ayat from Surah An-Nisa, ayat 13 and 14. And it shows like this is a very serious matter, even though we know many Muslims in many countries, in many societies, neglect this concept, or they commit injustice towards family members. Sometimes in some communities, they don't give the girl her right. She's a girl, got married with someone else. If she takes her share from the inheritance, then her husband will enjoy it, and her husband is not a family member, is not a member of our family, and all these things. I know stories, real life stories, where like parents died, the father died and gave everything to his boys, right? And he neglected on purpose the rights of the girls. And then the girls had to take their own brothers to the court. And the case is there for years and years. They don't have a good relationship. So he created a mess. This father created a mess. He passed away. He will be taken into account for what he did. So anyway, it's really important. As I said, it's extremely important that we should treat everyone with justice, including family members. Do not neglect their rights. والأقربون أولى بالمعروف. يعني there is a saying in Arabic, الأقربون أولى بالمعروف. So those who have a close relationship with you, like family members, have more right upon you than other people. So in this workshop, inshallah, we'll talk about the concept of al-wasiyya, the legal will. We'll talk about gifts to children. When we give gifts to children, how do we manage, this concept? Fairness with all children, child benefit. There are sometimes parents confused about child benefit, which is coming from the government. Should the father takes it? Is it the property of the father or the property of the mother? Usually it comes in the name of the mother. Or if there is a joint account, it comes to the joint account. But is it the property of the children? There are women who believe, no, it's her money. The government is giving her the money, So she owns the money. The father sometimes takes this money and then he establishes a business or buys a land with it back home, and he doesn't spend this money on his children. So we need to know the ruling here. Financial justice between husband and wife, especially when they are together, or at the time of divorce, Family business and fair dealings with employed family members. And also talk a little bit about the property of the orphans. Now, a legal will here, it's defined as a legal declaration of how a person wishes his or her possessions to be disposed of after they pass away, after their death. Right? So it's a legal declaration. Right? And it's a very important document. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, talked about al-wasiyya in Surah An-Nisa. من بعد وصية يوصي بها أو دين. After any bequest, he may have made or she may have made or debt. Generally, it is recommended. It is not obligatory. But if someone is bound with some financial obligations, like he took a loan from someone and he has to pay it back, and this is a financial obligation, if no one knows about it and it's not written, there is no document about it, he might pass away and no one knows that he had a loan to pay. He took a loan from so and so. And in some cases, a person would come to the family after the death of a person and say, you know, I gave your father a loan, 10,000. I owe him 10,000. He was supposed to pay me back, but he passed away. There is no proof. So sometimes in some cases the children will say, okay, we don't have a proof. You don't have a document. So here when someone has a financial obligation, because what is recommended is to dedicate some wealth to be donated after your death to an Islamic school, to an orphanage, to a masjid, to a family member who doesn't have the right to inherit you. He's a family member, like someone who's a cousin from your mother's side, for example. He's not included in the group of the inheritors. He's not a warith. So you can give him a wasiyah, but these are recommended acts of charity. Recommended. But what is a financial obligation? You bought a car or a house and you had to pay the other party back. This is a financial obligation. This is not recommended. This is a debt. I know a story, someone told me about it. It happened in Kuwait. He said it's a real story, and he knew about it. He said there was a tajir, a merchant, and he used to do business with people. So at one time he made a big transaction with two other business people, two other merchants. They bought something from him, I guess, and it was a credit sale. So they wrote the transaction that he bought like this land or this, I don't know, it was something very significant. Let's say $500,000. This is the price, right? These two people, the owners of the other business, used to make payment on a monthly basis, but they didn't feel that it is not important to ask for a receipt. No receipts were served. So they used to make the payment cash. And in some countries, in some Muslim countries, people will say to each other, "Oh no, don't worry. We're brothers, we're friends, we're good friends. Don't worry about it. Nothing will happen. ولا يهمك." ما راح يصير in Arabic. Maybe you have it in Urdu or other, in your culture. Don't worry about it. Nothing will happen. We're friends. We're good friends. We're cousins. So this is well known in our culture. So they used to make payment almost every month. They say it's not important we trust the person. He trusts us. There is trust between us. Then he passed away. the owner of the business, passed away. Then the other two people were thinking about it now. There is a transaction, it is documented, and we made a big payment, but our payment is not documented. We don't have a proof that we made many payments. So the brother told me they came to the janaza prayer, the janaza gathering. There was a gathering. And they stayed there for the whole night. Like the people would come and go, and they felt like embarrassed to talk to the children. So the person, the business person, this guy passed away, he left the children, right? His children are there receiving people. And then they felt embarrassed to talk to them because it's not a good time, right? It's janazah. People are coming to pay their condolences and making ta'ziyah. They didn't feel like it's a good time to talk about it. But they felt like, okay, let's go next day. The next day, they went and they sat down there. People are coming and leaving, but these two were sitting there and watching. Until like a third day or the fourth day, the children of this person felt like there is something wrong with these two people. They come every day, they're silent, they don't talk to anyone. What's wrong with these people? Like they pay ta'ziyah like everyone, but people are coming for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, like 20 minutes and they leave. But these people are staying for the whole night, for 3 nights in a row, right? Then they approach them and tell them, yeah, there is an issue. We need to talk to you about it. And we felt embarrassed. Maybe it's not a good time. We're sorry, but we have to discuss it. Okay, what do you have? And they explained to them that, yeah, we made a big transaction with your father. We bought something. I don't know if it was a piece of land or a property or something. But we were making, there is a document for the transaction, how much and everything, and the date of the transaction. But we were making payments on a regular basis, but we don't have a proof. So we wanted to let you know that we made this amount of money as a payment. And the children told them, okay, we're going to look at the documents, the files of our father, and let you know. And then after that, they looked at the files. They said, why? You have a proof that you bought this, this property from our dad or something, but you don't have a proof that you made any payment. We don't know how much you paid. We don't know if you are saying the truth or not. We have no proof. There is no proof. Right? So the brother told me they went to the court. And I don't know what happened. What was the outcome? It was a case in the court now. Because these people were saying, we don't have a proof that you made any payment. Right? So now, the Sharia is saying that if you have a financial obligation, it doesn't have to be in a formal will if you don't have the time. If you still have planning to write a will, right? And you don't know how to do it, should you go to a lawyer? We'll talk about going to the lawyer, not going here in Alberta. What are the rules here in Alberta, right? But my point is, if you have a financial obligation, your wife doesn't know about it, your children do not know about it, maybe you should put it down. Even in a handwritten document, just leave something for the family. Tell them that, I have this financial obligation. I have to pay so-and-so 10,000. Or I gave a loan to someone. That's the money that belongs to the family after you pass away. You gave a loan to someone, gave him 10,000. Your family doesn't know about it. And the person, maybe he will run away after your death. He doesn't say anything about it, and your family doesn't know about it, then you're actually, the wealth of your family will be lost. And that's why we have the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ. This is in Bukhari and Muslim. He said, مَا حَقُّ امْرِئٍ مُسْلِمٍ لَهُ شَيْءٌ يُوصِي فِيهِ يَبِيتُ لَيْلَتَيْنِ إِلَّا وَوَصِيَّتُهُ مَكْتُوبَةٌ عِنْدَهُ. So he said, the hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, it is not permissible for any Muslim who has something to will, something to pass down to his family, to let them know about it. Here the ulama, they said Rasulullah ﷺ was talking about the financial obligations, not what is recommended. Because if you miss something recommended, you will not be taken to account on the Day of Judgment. Nothing is lost here. It's recommended. You had a plan, you wanted to give a donation to IISC, for example, and the person passed away, he didn't do it. There is no sin here because it's recommended. Or you wanted to give a donation to an orphanage or to the Islamic school after you pass away. This is wasiyah. By the way, this is the definition of wasiyah in Islam, right? But if it is an obligation, then it has to be written, and this is what the hadith is talking about. He has something to will, something to let his family know about it, to stay for 2 nights, except without having his last will, testament written and kept ready with him. So basically, Rasulullah ﷺ is saying, if you have an financial obligation, you need to have a document, even if it is not formal. Of course, here in Alberta, to make it formal, it has to be signed by yourself and signed by at least 2 witnesses. They sign it in front of you, and it's better that you sign in front of them. Lawyer, it's a different story. We'll talk about it, inshallah. It's not, basically in Alberta, it's not an obligation to certify your will with a lawyer. It's recommended. It's only a recommendation in Alberta. But anyway, when you look at Sharia, the hadith of Rasulullah ﷺ, it is an obligation. We cannot delay it. As I said, unless it is recommended, then there is no obligation for you to have a document, but it's better to have a document. If you want to do something, a sadaqah fi sabilillah, you have no loans, no debts, then this document is recommended. Now, what are the conditions for a valid wasiyah? Wasiyah is a bequest. It's called a bequest, a legacy. You want to leave some money for some people, for some orphans, for an Islamic school. The first condition is these donations of the wasiyah cannot be given to one of the inheritors. So you have family, within your father's side, family members, your cousins and your relatives from family sides, father's side and mother's side. Some of them are inheritors, some of them are not. Like if you have a wife and children, boys and girls, and you have brothers, do you think your brothers will have the right to inherit from you? No. Why? Because you have boys. That's good. Yeah, that's good. Both answers are good. Sisters and brothers, mashallah, you're competing now. Yeah, that's good. You have boys, you have male children. So your brothers will not inherit from you. So you can give a wasiyah to your brother. You say, okay, 10,000, I want this 10,000 to be given as a gift to my brother Ahmed. Because your brother Ahmed is not one of the inheritors. But your son, your boy, Ali, he's one of the inheritors. So you cannot give him a wasiyah. What is a wasiyah? Is you say it's an extra money that you give to Ali, your son. You say, okay, after I pass away, Ali will be one of the inheritors. He will inherit he will have his share from the inheritors, but I want to give him an extra amount of money. Find 5,000 to Ali or 5,000 to Fatima. But Fatima is one of the inheritors. So Rasulullah ﷺ said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَعْطَى لِكُلِّ وَارِثٍ حَقَّهُ فَلَا وَصِيَّةَ لِوَارِثٍ. إِنَّ اللَّهَ قَدْ أَعْطَى لِكُلِّ حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ. So Allah has given each rightful person their right. Where? In Surah An-Nisa, in the Quran. There is no bequest in favor of one of the inheritors. So the basic principle that this is haram, this is not halal, only in one case. It becomes halal in one case. Could you help me with this case? I want you to wake up. I'm not testing you. I said the basic ruling regarding giving this extra money, this wasiyah, this gift. The wasiyah here is the gift that should be given to other people or other organizations after the person passes away. The ruling is this gift cannot be given to someone who has the right to inherit you. He's one of the waratha, one of the inheritors. But it is halal for this person to take this money in one case. Naam? If they are zakat eligible, no.
To pay for funeral expenses?
No, funeral is a different story. I'm not talking about funeral is always there, expenses. We'll talk about the classification of rights. The classification of rights between wasiyah, which is the bequest and debts and inheritance, and the expenses of janazah. So 4 rights. 4 rights after the person passes away. 4 rights. The bequest could be recommended, is not a right. But the other 3 are rights and obligations. Okay? But here, let's solve this problem here. I said as a basic ruling, it is haram to give this extra money, this extra gift to a person who has the right to inherit you. And it is halal in one case. نعم؟ Pardon؟ البيع والشراء؟ No, البيع والشراء يا أختي هذا بيع وشراء. خلاص إذا حصل البيع والشراء. If there is a sale, مثلا if the father sold something to one of his children during life and he received the payment, no, that's a different story. That's a different story. Yeah, if it is a gift, we'll talk about it. No. If it is a gift, we'll talk about it. It has to be, we have to do justice when giving gifts to our children. It's very important. You know, it is permissible in one case if all the waratha are satisfied. They agree, they approved it. It's like them giving up their right. They give up their right. So you have 7 people who inherit you, for example, your wife, your children, your mother, your father, for example, and you want to give some extra money to your wife because she doesn't have a job or something like that. So if all of them are happy and satisfied, then it becomes permissible and she can take it, this extra money. Yes?
So the permission should be sought during the life of the person who will...
No, even after his death, if they approve it, that's okay.
So how will he know to bequest the amount?
He shouldn't bequest. He shouldn't bequest, but if he wants to bequest, if he wants to bequeath, if he wants to do this bequest, wasiyah to one of the inheritors, he can talk in his life. He can tell them, talk to them. If they approve it, then he can include it in the wasiyah.
But you cannot push them.
Huh? You cannot push them, no. It's not nice to push them, to put pressure on them.
Yeah.
So they approve it. No, it's not nice. It has to be, you need to make sure that they are happy with it. Usually it happens with mothers and children. Children, they are doing fine. Everyone has full-time a job. And the mother doesn't have a job and she's like a senior member of the family. And, so sometimes the kids will say, okay, it's okay if you give some extra money to our mom. It happens, very common, right? Okay, the donation should not exceed the 1/3 of your wealth. This donation, this wasiyah. لا تتجاوز الثلث, which is 33% of your assets, of the value of your assets and estates. No more than 33%. And the hadith, the proof is Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anhu. He was sick, and he was in the city of Mecca. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went to see him. Like after he made hijrah to Medina, I guess he went back to the city of Mecca for Umrah or Hajj or for whatever reason. He got sick in Mecca, and Rasulullah was there, maybe during one of his umrahs, or I'm not sure, during the conquest of Mecca. Anyway, he was there, and he went to see him. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I am very sick, I am worried about myself, and I might die, and I have only one daughter. I don't know if he meant he has only one daughter as an inheritor, or he has other boys, but among female teachers, he had only one daughter, and he was worried about her well-being. I'm not sure about that exactly, to be honest with you. But this is what he said. He said, I want to give donations. Should I give 2/3 of my property as a donation or as a wasiyah? Right? You see, 2/3 of his property to be given as a sadaqah after his death. That would be 66%, right? 2/3. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he said, no. He said, how about half? 50%, Ya Rasulullah. Rasulullah ﷺ said, no, this is not permissible. He said, how about a third? He said, yes, na'am, وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ. قال الثُّلُثُ وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ. He said, yes, even though the third is still a big amount. So Rasulullah ﷺ indirectly preferred that the donation should be less than the third. Less than 33%. If it is 20%, 25%, 10% is good. He gave him the illah. This is in Bukhari, by the way, in Sahih Bukhari. Between brackets, B means Bukhari. He gave him the illah. What is the illah? He said, it's better for you to leave your inheritors or your family members wealthy, instead of giving donations, and they might end up asking for help after your death, going to other people and ask for help, right? So if you have money, leave it to your family members. That's why the ulama, they said it is makruh to make this wasiyah if the person is not wealthy. But if the person is wealthy, mashallah, he has millions, then it's good to make this wasiyah. It's good to make this wasiyah. But if his financial means are very limited, then leave this money for your family because they need it. And they will be happy and they will make dua for you. So these are the conditions. These are the general conditions. No more than a third. Number one. Sisters, this is clear. You are able to read this, right? Yes. Okay. So no more than a third. Number two, it becomes permissible if the heirs approved it and they are sane adults. So if someone is a child, he's a minor, you cannot get approval from them. This is a problem. If he's 10 years old, you wait, if you want to wait, until they become adults after the age of puberty, and you ask for their permission. If they are children, you can't, because children don't know. They don't know what is right and what is wrong, what is good for them and what is not good for them. He's a child. He's 7 years, 6 years old. How can you get an approval about such an important financial issue from a child who doesn't know these things? So this is the beauty of Sharia. Our Sharia is all about justice, ya ikhwan. Number three, no wasiyah from the third to any of the inheritors. But we said if they approve it, alhamdulillah. It is makruh to bequeath if the person is not wealthy. It is makruh, disliked. It is encouraged to do it if you are wealthy. If you have enough money, you say, okay, I want to give a small amount to this place or to these people, then it is encouraged and you will be rewarded for that, inshallah. Is that clear? Before we move to something else?
So this 1/3 is before the disbursement of inheritance or after?
Okay, let's talk about it now. We said there are 4 rights, right? When the person passes away, 4 rights. What is the first right in your opinion? Funeral. Jazakallah, funeral. Because is this an immediate need? An immediate need. It's an urgent matter. The person passes away, we need to spend money on his janazah. MCC asked for 6,000, for the burial services. Yeah, around 6,000. You need to keep it aside. But I guess in the old days, they used to like to be flexible and say they give a discount if someone doesn't have money or so. But at other times, the friends and family members will come together and pay on his behalf, right? In Edmonton, same thing, 6,000 or 7,000. But they have expenses. We have to be honest with you. They have a contract with the funeral home. So there is a car that goes to the hospital. They bring the dead person, the deceased. They bring him to the masjid. Ghusl, the people who do ghusl, they are volunteers, but the room is well equipped. I went inside the room where they do ghusl. They give ghusl to people, and they have to buy stuff all the time. And it's well equipped. I was happy. I was impressed when I went inside. And they have someone who has a machine to dig the graves there. And he's not doing it for free. It's a contract. They have a contract with him. He has to be available all the time. Whenever there is a janazah, he has to be there, and his machine is there all the time. And he digs and he takes care of these things. So they have to pay this guy. They pay the funeral home. These are the expenses that they have. I'm not sure about if they have other expenses besides buying the stuff and supplies. So they have expenses. I guess they are making some profit, but Allahu Alam. But these are the expenses. So this is the first right. The second right, what do you think? What is the second right? Sisters, brothers? Huh? Who is saying debts? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3. Sisters. Like 2 sisters here. So yes, debts. You're right, you got it right. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about wasiyah before that in Surah An-Nisa. If you go to Surah An-Nisa, go back to the ayah. In ba'di wasiyatin. Yeah, after any bequest he may have made or debt. Why? Why is that? You're saying debt is more important. You're right, I agree with you. Debt is more important. So funeral expenses, debt, and then number 3, the wasiyah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned wasiyah before that. You know, there is a secret there. SubhanAllah, this is the beauty of the Quran. Huh? They said, when it comes to debt, there are always people who, they have a contract with the person who passed away, and they know their rights, right? They will come to the family. They said, okay, this is my right. Your father owes me, or I owe your father. This is the right way to say it, right? So your father has a debt obligation. He has to pay me back 10,000. He took a debt from me. He took a loan from me. Or we performed a credit sale, and he didn't pay me the whole amount. I need money. So there is someone who will ask for his right. But when it comes to wasiyah, he might say, okay, 10,000 or 20,000 of my wealth to the orphanage. The orphanage, most of the time, they don't know about it. It is written in the document sometimes. It is not sometimes written. Sometimes people die without writing anything, but they would say, okay, I want you, all my children, to give 10,000 of my wealth as a sadaqah to the orphanage. But the orphanage doesn't know about it. So there is no people who will come and ask for, So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed the wasiyah before that people can pay attention to it. Yes, debt is more important than wasiyah. But you cannot neglect the wasiyah. You have to pay attention to it. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed it before that. So people can take care of it. And then the last right is the inheritance. The division of the inheritance. So funeral expenses, debts, the wasiyah, and then the inheritance. At the end, the inheritance will be. Now, if you want to know, yes, brother.
So if a person wanted to give wasiyah, their intention is to give wasiyah to an inheritor, can they do it as a gift when they're alive?
Okay, we'll talk about gifts. It's okay to give your gifts to your family members and children when it's still alive. It's not a wasiyah. If it is given to them during your life, it's not a wasiyah. It's not called a wasiyah. It's called a hadiyah. What is a hadiyah? It's a gift. It's called a gift.
So when you approach old age,
Wasiyah is something that has to be given to them after your death.
so just to understand like that, it's not unfair if you approach old age and you give, let's say, 30% of your wealth to one child, even though after your death they wouldn't get that much, but you prefer that one child, for example. You just
As I said, it's haram unless everyone is happy with it.
But you can do it during your life,
During life to give him a gift,
just to
give him a gift.
yeah.
And he takes it.
Yeah,
We'll
you
talk
can't-
about
you
it.
can't do it in your will, but if you
We'll
do
talk
it
about it
when you're
now.
approaching old age and then
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about giving gifts to your children. Yeah, justice has to be established when giving significant. I'm not talking about sandwiches, paying a dinner for him, taking him for lunch. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about significant gifts. We'll talk about it today, inshallah. It's part of the program. Now, as I said, if you want to know the gravity of this matter, how serious it is in the Sharia of Allah, you go to 2 ayat in Surah Al-Nisa, ayat 13 and 14. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started this ayat, 2 ayat, by saying, Tilka hududullah. Tilka hududullah. These are the limits of Allah. And whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger will admit him into gardens of paradise under which rivers flow, abiding eternally therein. So this is a promise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you follow the guidance of Allah regarding inheritance, you don't do any injustice, any act of injustice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you with Jannah. And you will be there forever in Jannah. But the other picture, which is in ayah 14, and whoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger and transgresses His limits, will send him into the fire of hell, abiding eternally therein. We need to understand this. This is a big problem here. خالدا فيها. So Allah said, خالدا فيها. Eternity. Allah is talking about eternity. Now we need to understand eternity here. You know, those who neglect the rules of inheritance are divided into 2 groups of people. 2 groups of people. The first group of people, they don't care about this guidance. They said, I don't believe in it. Do we have these people in our communities nowadays? Yes. There are people in our communities who are saying, in our communities, I'm talking about worldwide, right? People who are, secular, they believe in the values, they adopted the values of the liberal movement, progressive movement. Say, I don't believe that, a boy should be given 2 shares and the daughter should be given only 1 share. This is not fair. They say, this is not fair. About Quran, about the division of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I'll tell you the answer for this. This is very fair. Very fair when you think about it. Can you tell me about the fairness of this division? It's not all the case. There are cases where a female relative will take more than a male relative, other cases. But let's talk about boys and girls, children. If they are together, boys and girls, the boy will take 2 shares, the girl will take 1 share. Why is it fair?
We can speak about the ayah.
Yes, because the man will take this money, 2 shares, and he has the responsibility. It is his responsibility to spend on his family. The daughter, she doesn't have any obligation to spend on her family. When she gets married, it's her money, and she'll keep it in the bank. If she wants to spend it, it's her problem, it's her choice. But she doesn't have to spend on the family. But he has the responsibility to spend on his children, on his mother if she needs help, even other family members. Even other family members, if they are in need, they are suffering, sometimes it is an obligation to spend on them. You don't leave them without any financial assistance. Right? But she gets married, she has to keep everything, and she doesn't have the obligation to spend on this. So this is fair. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Now, abiding eternally therein. So those people who do not believe in this guidance, they said, I don't care about it, I don't believe in it. Are they still Muslims? What do you think?
Yes.
They're not. They leave the fold of Islam. If you go clearly against the guidance of the Quran, but then you deny something that is basic knowledge, the obligation of salah, the obligation of zakat, the obligation of fasting, now the division of inheritance, you go against it, say, I don't believe in it. I have something better, which is these laws or the laws of this land or whatever, then the person is not Muslim anymore. But if he neglects these rules for some other reasons, he believes that, this is the right guidance. But for some other reasons, he believes that is not important. And I dealt with some cases where they are still Muslims, but they don't have knowledge. So a woman neglected the payment of zakat, believing that it is better for her to leave this money for her children. She was not paying zakat. And alhamdulillah, her children pay attention to this after she passed away. Said, before we divide any inheritance, let's calculate how much zakat our mother was supposed to pay. Let's pay it on her behalf from her assets, from her own money. But there are people who are like that. I told you about the story of someone who was wealthy. Someone came to me and said, this is the case in our family. He told me, this is happening in our family. He was wealthy. He gave everything to the boys, left nothing for the girls, nothing. So in his will, everything is given to his boys. Now the boys, of course, had I hope that the case is solved. I was told about it a couple of years ago. They had a very difficult relationship with their brothers, and they took them to the court. Imagine the girls, now sisters, taking their own brothers to the court. And of course, the brothers are supposed to fear Allah and correct the situation. It is supposed to be corrected for the sake of their own father, so he doesn't pay for it on the day of judgment. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about abiding eternally therein. So these people, eternity for those Muslims who believe that this is the right guidance, but they do otherwise, they act otherwise for whatever reason. Eternity for them it doesn't mean that they will stay in Jahannam forever. And I reviewed this mas'ala, but it's still scary. They said eternity for the believers means that they will spend a longer period of time in Jahannam if they go to Jahannam because of this ma'asiyah. They spend a longer period of time. At the end, every Muslim, every believer will get out from Jahannam at the end. There will be a time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow every mu'min, anyone who has an atom's weight of iman, faith in his heart, He will allow them to go to Jannah at the end, right? So no believer will stay in Jahannam. But they said eternity for the believers, those who believe in the guidance but they don't follow it. They believe in it but they don't follow it. It is طول المكث في Jahannam, which is scary. Spending a longer period of time in Jahannam. Because there are people who will go into Jahannam and their friends who will go to Jannah, They will say, Ya Allah, our pleasure in Jannah will not be complete until our friend joins us in Jannah. So immediately Allah will allow them to go and bring their friends from Jahannam. So they will spend a short period of time. But here, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about khulud, for those who commit this kind of sins, they said these people will stay for a long period of time in Jahannam, but at the end, because of their faith, because of their iman, they will leave Jahannam and they go to Jannah. But this is not a joke. It's not a joke. It's not easy. But it is, so eternity is real for the disbelievers, for those who completely reject this guidance, the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding these issues, or regarding khulud also was mentioned regarding riba, dealing with riba, khulud, eternity, and also for someone who kills someone else, the crime of killing someone else, it was eternity was all mentioned. So eternity is real for the disbelievers, but it is not real for the believers. Yeah, but staying a long period of time is not something we shouldn't take this risk. So this is how we understand this ayat. Gifts and financial support. Now when it comes to gifts, the ulama, they said if wealth is divided during the life of the owner, it cannot be described as inheritance. It cannot be. There are people who said, okay, I want to divide my inheritance while I'm still alive. You know why many people do it?
Fearing problems.
It's very sad. They're worried. Worried what will happen after they die, after they pass away. Back home, last year I was back home. I attended the khutbah. The khatib says, oh my God, he said, he made a big statement. He said, you don't know how many families are going through, people are facing each other, they're having a difficult relationship with each other, family members, because of the inheritance, the problem of inheritance. He said, if those who pass away, those wealthy people who pass away, if they know what will happen after them, after they pass away, if they know, they will leave nothing for their family members. Because of the fight and all the troubles and the problems happening within families. So there are people who said, okay, I want to divide everything before I pass away. But the problem is, the ulama, they said it's makruh, it's disliked. Because the matter is not clear. If you divide everything, are you going to give everyone the same thing? Or you follow the rules of inheritance? Because the rule inheritance, the numbers are different. The third for this person, the eighth for this person, half for this person. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divided the inheritance based on His hikmah and knowledge. But are you giving everyone the same? Now this is a problem. So they said, it is permissible to perform this division, although it is disliked in Sharia. And it is disliked, also could be disliked for some other reasons. Sometimes people give everything and then they regret it. I know someone who was sick in the hospital and he felt like this is his last breath, he's dying. That was his feeling at that moment. So he called his family member and he told them to write everything, division. He divided his wealth. And the people took their shares while he's still alive. He didn't die. He's still in the hospital. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted him shifa. He's fine. And the problem is, no one cared about him. They took money, everyone took his share, but they neglected their father. And he was like, it was very painful. It was a very sad story. These are real life stories, ya ikhwan. So they said you have to be careful about that. Yeah, if you divide, you leave something for yourself. This is one thing. The other thing is, be careful, do not do it with an ill intention. What is an ill intention? Like, مثلا, for example, someone who is married has a wife and he has 2 daughters or 3 daughters and he has brothers. If he passes away, his wife will take her share, the daughters will take their share, the rest will be taken by his own brothers. They're not his children, siblings. So he will say, okay, I don't want my brothers to take anything from my inheritance. I want to give everything to my daughters and my wife. So they will try to distribute everything while they're still alive. If you do it with this intention, this is a major sin. And I heard someone saying, like, the guy is very good, a good man, wallahi, a very good man, but he came to me, he said, I don't want my brothers to inherit anything from my legacy or my wealth. I want everything to be given to my daughters. He doesn't have a boy in the family. Because he has a boy, his brothers will not take anything. Yeah, and this brother passed away. May Allah have mercy on him. He was a nice brother, but that was his thinking at that time. And I told him it's not permissible. You cannot do it this way. I mean, if you do it with this intention, you try to divide wealth with this intention, it's haram. Yeah, try to deprive a family member from having their share. It was a share that was given to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why are you upset? I mean, after you pass away, you should care about yourself, your safety in the grave. لذلك Umar ibn Khattab, there was a statement, beautiful statement, attributed to Umar ibn Khattab. He said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min malin uhasabu alayhi fi qabri wa yantafi'u bihi ghayri. Oh Allah, I seek refuge in you from wealth. Seek refuge in you from wealth, which I will be taken to account for in my grave, and other people will benefit from it. Other people will benefit from it. So, if you're worried about your children, don't worry. The answer is don't worry about them. The one who created them will take care of their needs. If he took care of your needs, if he gave you, help you with a full-time job, you have money, you have everything. Who gave you this wealth? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So place your trust in Him. He will take care of your children and your boys. He's the one who created them, and He has decreed how much money they will make in this life before they pass away. Do it in the right way and leave the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you leave for them taqwa, like Umar ibn Abdul Aziz said, then they will be happy. Taqwa. Teach them how to be people of piety and righteousness. Right? Give them knowledge. So with this knowledge, right knowledge, they will be good Muslims, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for them. If they have taqwa, Allah will provide for them. This is the statement of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, who was a Khalifa. Right? Khalifa. He was the leader of the Muslims, and the people around him, some people, they said, Ya Khalifa, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, O Prince of the Believers, you should leave something for your children. Said, if there are people of taqwa, Allah will provide for them. That one of the ulama who attended this, who was there, present there, he said later on, couple of years, I saw one of the children of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz donating 100 horses, or I don't know how many, 100, it's a big amount of horses to fi sabilillah. One of the children of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provided for them, and they became rich. They became rich to the extent they were able to make big donations fi sabilillah. طيب. So now, as I said, this division is permissible, but it is disliked. You have to be careful. Leave something for yourself if you are doing it. You don't do it with a bad intention to deprive some family members from their share. Now, if you are dividing, there is a problem here. 2 opinions. Some ulama, they said you give everyone the same amount, same share, regardless if they are boys or girls, because this is not inheritance. And some of them, they said, no, you need to follow the rules of inheritance. So it's kind of confusing. My answer, my advice, if someone wants to do it, if he's doing it because with the intention of dividing inheritance, right? He should follow the rules of inheritance. That's better. If he wants to give gifts, he doesn't have inheritance in mind. He just want to support his family, give them money. He wants them to enjoy his wealth and give them gifts, then it's okay if he gives everyone the same thing. And that is the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, and Imam Malik, majority of Muslim scholars. He said when you are giving gifts, it should be the same for everyone. And they have a proof. There is a famous story, the hadith of Nu'man ibn Bashir here. And Nu'man ibn Bashir, he said, my father gave me a gift. And it was something significant, as I said, not a sandwich or lunch or dinner or something like that. So his mother, it seems like his father was married, like he had multiple wives, I guess, 2 wives or 3 wives, or I don't know. So his mother, the mother of this boy, she said, this gift will not be approved until you go to the Messenger of Allah and make him a witness. She wants to confirm. She wants to confirm this action. Go to the Messenger of Allah, ask him to be a witness. Ya Rasulullah, I'm giving this gift to my child, and I want you to be a witness, to testify for that. For Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he went to the so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked him, do you have other children? He said, yes. Did you give them the same thing? He said, no. He said, لا تشهدني على جور. Don't ask me to witness an act of injustice, to be a witness for an act of injustice and dhulm and oppression. And then there is another riwayah, it's a famous riwayah of this hadith, اتقوا الله وَاعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ أَوْلَادِكُمْ. Fear Allah and treat your children, all your children, with justice. Fear Allah and treat all your children with justice. And that's why Imam Malik, Abu Hanifa, and Shafi'i said, if you are giving gifts, it should be the same for everyone. Now, there is a difference between needs and gifts. What is the difference? Needs, someone wants to get married and he needs help. He said, Baba, I need 5,000. Right? I need 5,000. Do you have to give 5? If you give him this 5,000 because he's planning to get married next month and he wants to pay for the hall, for the food, for he's inviting people, do you have to give all your children 5,000? No, because you're not giving gift. This is not a gift. You are supporting him because he needs your help at that moment. Another daughter, she's going to university. She said, Baba, I don't have tuition fees. I have to pay for my course. I need $3,000. You give her 3,000. You don't have to give 3,000 to each child because you're not giving her a gift. She needs your support. She needs your support. She's going to university and you're happy with her studies or whatever. She needs it. Or another boy who needs to take training or something, and they need your help, right? So when you fulfill a need, then you don't have to look for justice because you're not giving gift. But if you love one of your children, you love him, and say, Ahmed, I want to give you a car. I bought a car for you, a new car, right? And you have other like 5, 6 children, and you give them nothing. And you give him a car just because you love him. A gift, or an expensive watch, for example, or a laptop. But you never bought a laptop for Ali and Fatima and Layla. You never bought a laptop for them. I mean, what are you doing here? So here you remember what? The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. اتقوا الله وَاعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ أَوْلَادِكُمْ. Fear Allah and treat all your children with justice. Now, there are people who say, when it comes to fulfillment of needs, they say, at the time of, when they are sick and they're passing away, they say, I remember when Ahmed was getting married, I gave him 20,000. I supported him with this money. He needed 20,000, I gave him 20,000 to get married, for his marriage, for his wedding, for Kevin. I want you to deduct this 20,000 from his share of the inheritance. Is that permissible? No. You don't do it this way. Because when you gave him this money, it was not a gift, it was not inheritance. He needed your support at that time, and it's some sort of nafaqa, right? So you don't deduct this money from the inheritance, right?
Unless it's a loan.
If it is a loan, yeah. Yeah, it has to be given back. Yeah. We're not talking about loans. Loans, yes. If you give a loan to someone, he has to pay it back. And it becomes part of the inheritance.
What about if you take the loan from the banks?
Okay?
You have to pay it back too? Like for example, if somebody, like your father took or somebody took, the sons have to pay it back. Like,
Okay. Now I understand your question. Yeah, I got it. No, you don't have to, but it's better. It's better. But if he left money, he left inheritance, and he made a will, you have to fulfill his will. So there are different cases. He left a will, and he said, okay, I took a loan from the bank, and I want you to pay the bank back. Here, you have to. You have to fulfill his will, right? If he died without a will, then it's better to, I would say, yes, you pay the bank back. But you don't have to pay it from your pocket. It's not an obligation, just to know the rules of Sharia. You don't have to pay it. But if you pay it from your pocket, it's nice. And it will be an act of what? Kindness towards your father or your mother. If you pay it on their behalf. That's why loans are very dangerous. You have to be careful about loans, ya ikhwan. Write them down, try to pay them back as soon as possible, because if someone passes away, you don't know what your family will do with it, right? Maybe they don't, and you'll be taken to account for it on the Day of Judgment, even if it is the bank. طيب. So this I think we mentioned this, if needs were fulfilled, then there is no need for settlements or adjustments at the time of death. So we don't need to deduct this assistance that was given to so and so at the time of death. But if it is a loan, yes, the loan, even if he's your child, your daughter, your son, he has to pay back the loan, and it is part of the inheritance, and everyone has a share in it. Parents and the wealth of their children. So there is a hadith, أنت ومالك لأبيك. There are many people who misunderstand this hadith. You and your wealth belong to your father. أنت ومالك لأبيك. لأبيك. اللام علماء هنا قالوا ليست لام الملكية وإنما هي لام الإباحة. What does it mean? Lam, there is lam here. أنت ومالك لأبيك. لأبيك. So you can translate it as belong to your father, but belonging doesn't give the right translation here. Arabic is very complicated, more complicated than English. So they said lam here does not mean ownership. It means permissibility. It means that it is okay for parents to benefit from the wealth of their children, but they don't own it. You cannot come to the wealth of your child and say, hey, you don't own your wealth. I own it. A father cannot do that. But is it okay if you take from the wealth of your children at times of need? It is permissible, yes. With some conditions. That it doesn't affect, you don't affect the well-being for your child. This is one condition. The second condition is that you really need this money. You don't take this money to go for a vacation to Mexico. You don't do that. No, you don't need it. Even for Umrah and Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not take you to account for not doing Hajj if you don't have the financial ability. If you're going to hurt your child, he needs this money. You take his money and you go for Hajj. No, you don't do it. You see what I'm saying? So it has to be justified with a need, number one. Number two, you don't hurt the well-being for your child. Number three, you don't take it from one child, you give it to another child. There are people who do it. This is very common. Very common. I mean, unless the other child, your brother, needs help and you are willing to help him, that's fine. But there are parents who take money from some of their children and they give it. They will tell their children, I need this money, I will take it. And then they give it to other children. And then when the other children find out, my brother is doing well, but my mother keeps on giving him money. I mean, I dealt with these problems. People come and complained about this kind of situation. Why? I think it's a problem of they call it favorism in English. When some parents favor some children over other children, it's a common problem. It's sad, painful. It's not easy to deal with, but it's a fact. Unfortunately, yeah. There are some people who behave this way, some parents. I'm not sure why, but so anyway, when it comes to child benefit coming from the government, children are the owner of the child benefit. Children are the owners, not the mother, not the father. Which means the parents have to spend this money on their children. And there are two ways. There are people do it in two ways. They include this money with the monthly budget. That's okay, that's fine. Like these parents receive 1,000 from the government. They spent it on the family. That's fine. Islamically, it's fine. And this is what the government wants you to do, to spend this money on your children. So you spend it on the family. That's okay. That's fine. The other way is there are parents who open a bank account for their children, or they have something called RESP, Registered Education Saving Plan. And they put this money in this account. That's fine for the sake of children. When they grow up, when they become 18, they go to university, they benefit from this money. That's fine. That's another option. Right? So, but don't say, okay, this is my money, because I dealt with families where the mother and having dispute about this money. Husband and wife, especially at the time of divorce. So, no, this money belongs to the children. Taib, do you have any question regarding this issue here? Everything is fine? Can move forward, inshallah?
Is there a requirement amount of money to write a will?
The wasiyah?
Yeah.
We said it has to be less than 33%.
To write a will.
Yeah.
So there's no, let's say if a person has $10,000 in his account.
10,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
He still has to write it, the will?
No, you have the obligation to have a will if you have financial obligations. You have loans, debts, and your family do not know about it. Here in Canada, it is highly recommended to have a will, to make it easy for your family if at the time of death, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you a long life, at the time of death, your family doesn't have to go through lawyers, and if they have a will, it will be easy. It will be easy for them to withdraw money from your account. Everything will be easy. The process will be easy. As I said, it's not an obligation to certify this will with a lawyer. You can, if you want to give it some legal weight, take it to a notary public. But it is enough to sign it with the signature of 2 witnesses. And you have to assign an executor, someone who executes the will after the person passes away. And we have a will document on our website. If you want to download it, look at it. If you're happy with it, you can use it. A will document that's been used by IISC community for a long time. It is on the website. The right side, you see will document, download will document. If you like it, you can use it. And it has 18 pages. Why 18 pages? Because the 9 pages, they include every scenario. Like if your scenario today falls in 1 page, and after 2 years your situation changes, for example, because of death, extra children, your family situation might be found in another page. So all the scenarios are there in 9 pages. Right? So you need to have an executor, someone to execute the will. Could be your wife as a first person, and close friend as a second choice. And then if you want to bequeath something, you can include it in the will there. There is room for you to include it. If you don't want, that's fine, but you need two people, two witnesses to sign it and use your signature. And it will be accepted in a court of law. But they don't need to go to the court if they have a will. Everything will be fine. Everything will be easy. But if there is no will, things might get complicated. So the law here in Alberta, if there is no will, they will contact family members, but they have a different charter. They have a different charter and they give family members to apply for a grant from your estates and assets. Different family members. They have to look for close family members, immediate family members, and then there is a process. If there is no will, you tell them you apply. But the person died and he left 100,000, 200,000 in his account. Usually they start with the wife and children, usually, right? And then if there is no wife, there is the person had no children, then they look for other family members. If no one claims it, then it might be taken by the government. It's called unclaimed personal properties or something like that. So if someone lives in Alberta, doesn't have family members, he by himself, he should have a will. In case of death, at least family back home, they have a will, they have a document. They can give an authority and give a wakala to someone here to act on their behalf, and he will be able to withdraw your money from bank and send it back home to your family. So it's very important to have this document, ya ikhwan. I know about cases, and there were car accidents where both parents passed away. Both parents passed away, father and mother. I know 2 cases. And in both cases, the government of Canada gave a visa to the uncle to come. One from Pakistan, one from Egypt. So the uncle was allowed to come to Canada, and I'm not sure if he was allowed to take the child. In one case, it was 1 child. The other case, we had, I think, 2 or 3 daughters. But I'm not sure if the uncle was allowed to take the children out of Canada. I'm not sure. But in these 2 cases, both parents died. But if there is a will, the will be respected. If you assign someone to execute the will, you can, if your children are minors, you can assign someone to take care of your children in case of death. So they will have the legal right to take care of your children and sponsor them, or maybe take them back home. Allahu A'lam, man. But at least you need to have this document.
Question.
Yes.
So I understand why sons would have more right over a daughter.
Okay.
To their obligations spending it on their family.
Yeah.
But I'm having a very difficult time understanding why, let's say a young couple, let's say no kids or just a young couple, let's say the husband dies, why that money would go towards his brothers over his wife, when his wife maybe sacrificed a lot, or let's say they have a young kid. So I'm having difficulty understanding why the brother.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, I understand what you mean, but the person had a mother who carried him in her womb for 9 months, and she was taking care of him for 20 years or 30 years. You see what I'm saying? The father who was spending on him and taking care of him for 20 years or more than that. Yeah, but this is the division that was made by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani even, I'll tell you something, sister, even if we don't understand the hikmah, we Muslims, we are supposed to say, سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. We have heard and obeyed. Because even if you don't see the wisdom, because the wife might stay with her husband for 5 years, and she will take her share. If there are no children, her share is the 8th. the quarter, 25% of his wealth. If he has children, she takes the eighth, which is 12.5%, right? Does he have the right to make a wasiyah for his wife? Then he believes that his wife doesn't have a job, or she will have difficult time after his death. Is he allowed? He is allowed with the approval of the rest of the inheritors. Like مثلا, if he has parents, they have a right to inherit him, right? Siblings, if he has siblings, the parents are more powerful than the siblings. There is some, there is a formula for every different situations, right? But at a certain point, the brothers have a right to, or sisters, they have the right to inherit.
Yeah, that was going to be my second question. Is let's say, for example, like there's people that don't understand why a son would have more right on the daughter, but then the dad could say, okay, I'm going to give a wasiya to the daughter, but wouldn't that be a sin because they're going against the inheritance law with the intention to make it more fair in their eyes? So if
It is a sin. It is a sin.
So if the husband gives a wasiya to the wife, really the intention there is because he thinks that she should get more. So would that then be a sin? And
It won't be, as I said, it will not be a sin if the rest of the family who have the right to inherit approved it. If they approve it, it's not a sin. You see what I'm saying?
even if their intention is,
Yeah.
because that's the intention of a wasiya, right? That you believe that this person should get more.
Yeah, if he feels that he wants to give more money to his wife, that's okay, as long as, if he gives her a gift during his lifetime,
Yeah.
no one has the right to complain, because when he is alive, he has the right to dispose of his money or deal with his money the way he wants. If he wants to give a gift to his wife during his lifetime, when he's still alive, there is no problem with that. We're talking about inheritance and wasiyah, right? Anything that should be executed after death. After death, we have to follow the rules of Sharia. We have no choice. If we don't follow the rules of Sharia, then we have to get the approval of the rest of the family members who are inheritors. If they said, yes, we agree, your wife needs more money, you can give her more money, that's fine. Right? So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Hakeem. Again, I'll tell you an example. Someone gets married with a lady, and they spend together for 3 years or 4 years. And in your understanding, maybe, you think that she's more important to him than his own brothers and sisters. In your understanding. But I'll tell you, brothers and sisters grow up together. Maybe they supported each other. Maybe they had a very strong relationship. Spent together for 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. And the wife came and stayed with him for 3 years, and now she thinks that she should take everything. Do you think that's fair? Okay. Answered yourself. Khalas, you got the answer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is wise, ya jama'ah.
So, but in that case, in case of gift, then there should be no ill intention, what you said.
Yeah, when you give a gift, you shouldn't give gifts with the intention of depriving other family members from the inheritance. You feel like, oh, the person is sick, I'm about to die, I'll start giving gifts right and left to the people I love and care about. And the other people, I don't like them in the family, I will not give them anything. When times of inheritance, dividing the inheritance comes, then there is nothing left for them. Because I divided everything. Before.
Times demise, for example,
Huh?
selling acts without any transaction.
Yeah,
Any stuff.
yeah.
But if your intention is to take care of your family, let's say if someone only has daughters.
Yeah, I said it is permissible as long as you are not trying to deprive others, some other people who have the right. If they don't have the right, you don't care about them. You don't talk about them. Because to begin with, Allah has given them no right. So these people, you don't talk about them, you don't worry about them. You worry about those who have a right. In case the person passes away, and as I said, you have a wife, you have 2 daughters, and you have brothers. But you don't have parents, because parents, I think, have more priority, to the best of my knowledge, than brothers. So are you worried about your brothers taking from your inheritance, and you want to give everything when you're still alive to your family, so your brothers don't. This is not a good intention.
So one thing, in all the cases, the brothers they are not exceed more than the third. You're gonna be somebody the third or one of. If he has just one.
The wasiyah, yes. I'll tell you in the. Just let me finish the question, then I'll come back to you. When it comes to daughters, if you have 2 daughters or 3 daughters, you know how much they inherit? 2/3. 2/3, which is 66%. If you have only 1 daughter, she gets 50%. If there are no boys, 50%, and nisf, 50%, your daughter. And your wife, she will take the 8th, 12.5%, because you have children. If you have no children, she will take 25%. Right? So, and the rest will be divided between your brothers if there are no parents. Otherwise, the parents, they have their own shares. Right? Could be sometimes 6, could be 3rd.
So it will
1/6.
start with daughter and then wife and then brothers. Like then
The brothers, what is left, they will take it.
okay.
If someone has only 1 wife and daughters, and he doesn't have parents, then the rest will go to the brothers. So that would be 66% plus 12.5. How much, the total? 78.5? So only 21%, almost 21% is left for your brothers. So Allah knows that your daughters have more right.
Brothers and sisters, like how, like if
Brothers and sisters, yes. Brothers and sisters, what is left will be divided between them. The brothers will take 2 shares, the sisters will take 1 share. Again, for the same hikmah. Brothers, they are males, they have more responsibilities. Sisters, they don't have a big responsibility, they could be married. Her husband has a responsibility to spend on her, or her father, if the father is alive, and so on and so forth. Right? But anyway, wasiyah, as I said, it has to be less than the 3rd, and it cannot be given to an inheritor unless the family members who have the right to inherit approve it, and they are fine with it. That's okay. You can give it to them. Yes, brother.
I already answered the question.
I answered your questions?
Because, in all the cases, if a man died and he left just girls, his brothers and sister, all somebody they cannot exceed the 1/3 of his wealth. في حالة الكلالة أو إخوة متعددين خلينا نتجاوز ثلث.
Yeah,
So the biggest parts gonna be for the wife and the girls.
that's right.
Yeah. So the 1/3 itself.
Yes, brother, I think you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Does the Canadian system and law support Islamic will 100%?
I'll tell you. Okay, that's a good question. He said, does the Canadian law support the Islamic will? Right? Islamic, the will documents that we have. I talked to a couple of lawyers, and some of them, they are not Muslims. So one of them, he told me, when it comes to the will, it has a universal nature. Universal, yani, if it comes from Pakistan, from the moon, from another galaxy, the court has the obligation to honor the will. It is your personal decision, even if it is handwritten. In Alberta, there are 2 types of wills: formal will, and the other one, they call it holographic. I think holographic will. It's handwritten, right? So the court has the obligation. When does the court try to change the will? If there is a complaint from a family member. A family member, he comes and he submits an application to the court and say, I feel that there is no justice in this will, and I need my right my rights to be rectified. In this case, the judge will try to look into it and see and make a decision about it, if this claim is true or not. There is مثلا a lady here, she's not Muslimah. And before she passed away, she wrote a will. She gave everything as a charity. She left nothing for her daughter. Nothing for her daughter. And in the will, she wrote the justification why she didn't leave nothing for her daughter. She said she was not taking care of me, she was not listening to me, she was not asking about me, we had no relationship, why I would leave anything for her. So they had a very bad relationship, right? And the judge approved the will of the mother. He said, you have no right to complain. You had no relationship with your mother. Of course, in Islam, no, she has a right to inherit her mother, right? She will be taken to account for her mistreatment of her mother, right? But legally, she has the right to inherit. She's still Muslimah. If she is a Muslim, I'm talking about Muslims, she has the right to inherit. We cannot say, oh, this child was disobedient. He didn't have a good relationship with his father, so he should be excluded. We don't do it this way in Islam. He will be taken to account for his having a bad relationship with his father. But he has a right to inherit. Unless he becomes a kafir, that's a different story. There is no inheritance between a Muslim and a kafir. But if someone has a kafir child, let's say he became Muslim, he converted to Islam, and his child is still kafir, he still can give him from the wasiyah, the 33%. Because he knows that his child is kafir, is not Muslim, he will not be able to inherit, take anything from the inheritance. So he can give him from the wasiyah, because he cares about his child, right? He's still kafir, but I care about his financial well-being. And I want to leave something for him. Maybe Allah will soften his heart and he will become Muslim. So he can give him from the wasiyah, the 33%, because he's not an inheritor, right? To begin with, he's not one of the inheritors. So, what was the question again?
If the Canadian law supports
Yeah. Another lawyer, and this lawyer, the second lawyer, was a Christian, a practicing Christian lawyer. He was extremely impressed with our will and the way Sharia has divided inheritance. Because there was a Muslim family who signed this document. They chose to use our own will at IISC, and they invited him to just certify it. So he came to the house. He knew the father, and I know the family very well. I know the person who passed away. May Allah have mercy on him. So I went to their house, and they told me that the lawyer was not Muslim, but he came and he went through the will, and he was really impressed. He said, I didn't know you Muslims have this kind of, this financial, our will is very sophisticated, very sophisticated. He was concerned about the way wealth is divided between girls and boys. This statement was made by a couple of lawyers. They said it's not very Canadian. But they didn't say it's illegal. There's a difference. They said it's not very Canadian. But they didn't say it's illegal, because they know that these will documents, they are personal documents, and the court has the obligation to honor the will if it goes to the court. It's a personal matter, right? There are people who are worried about that. We shouldn't worry about it. Yes. Now, we said it is, okay, we're talking about guardians and wealth of the orphans. Okay, that's a different issue here. So now, if someone, مثلا, his brother passed away, or both parents passed away, and the uncle is taking care of he's the guardian. He becomes the guardian of his nephews and nieces. And they are all well explained in Surah An-Nisa. Surah An-Nisa, the first page. You go to the first page of Surah An-Nisa, at the last ayah in Surah An-Nisa, in the first page. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, if they are wealthy, then they shouldn't touch their wealth, right? If they are wealthy. He's allowed, as I said, to pay himself fees. That's okay if he's taking care of these orphans. But it's haram to take it without any justification. And by the way, apparently, this has happened a lot. People taking the property of the orphans and making the transfer of ownership and writing everything, registering the title on his name and not giving anything to his nephews and his nieces after they grow up. Oh yeah, it happened a lot. Nas'Allah salama wal afiyah. Okay, I think we are done. This is page 15. Do you have any question? Brothers or sisters? Yes. Yeah.
Sometimes the man owns a house and his wife and some of the kids live in it, and after he passes away, I understand that it's part of the inheritance and must be sold off to be divided. How important is it that that should be done immediately? Because a lot of times it is the only shelter that the wife has. And like just practically thinking about it, oftentimes it leaves the mother without space for her own.
You're talking about time frame?
Yes. Is there any time frame in Sharia that
It is highly encouraged to divide the inheritance immediately after death. It is highly encouraged. Not on the same day, but within a reasonable period of time. But it is highly recommended to do it as soon as possible, like within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. If it is delayed for a valid reason, that's okay. There are some families who decide, okay, we have a house and that's the only asset that we inherited from our father, but we want our mother to stay in the house, in the same house. So they decide to keep the house, they don't sell it. It's very common. Back home is very common, I don't know about here. But back home is very common. They leave the house, they don't sell it because they want their mother to stay in the same house, which is fine. So after the mother passes away, then they sell the house and they divide the inheritance. I reminded me of something. When, I don't know, I don't have it here in the presentation, but this is a very common problem in Canada, especially at time of divorce. Between husband and wife, how to manage, income and money. Now, money coming to, if your wife is working, to be honest with you, brothers, don't be upset. If your wife is working, there are brothers who think that it's his money, she should give him the paycheck. And that's not right. If you allow her to work, it's her money. Right? If you made an agreement that he should go to work, it's her money, right? If she inherits her money or you give her the sadaq, which is the mahr, you promise to give her 10,000 and mahr, dowry, and you give her 10,000, it's still her money, she can keep it in her account. Now, if the woman decide to spend on her family, here the problem, this is a big problem that we face all the time at time of divorce. There are women at the time of divorce who said, okay, I was spending on the family, I need my money back. Now the fatwa that we use in North America, we distinguish between the daily expenses or the monthly expenses on grocery and food and other expenses, the bills, and between business or real estate properties. So what is the difference? If she was spending on her family, paying for food and bills and everything, we have to know she was volunteering, it was a donation, she wants to support her husband and it was her choice. She doesn't have the right to ask for this money. But if she tells her husband, I know you are not having a job these days and this is my money, I want to help you, but this is a loan. Please, you pay me back. I'm going to spend on the family every month 2,000, 3,000. But please, after you get a job and you have money and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the doors of rizq for you, please, I want you to pay me back my money. She has the right to ask for this money because she made an agreement. Now everything is clear. She made an agreement with her husband. But if she spends without saying anything, she doesn't have the right to ask. How about business? If he was establishing a business, she decided to contribute in the business. Her rights are always protected in the business. Real estate property, a house, her rights are always protected. Because usually women, when they contribute into business or the purchase of a house, they want their share to be protected. They do it with this intention. I'm giving you 10,000 to establish a business. She usually wants to be a partner, or it's an investment, or it's a loan. It's not like spending on the family. Spending on the family, they do it sometimes with good faith. Say, okay, I'm spending on my children, buying food for them, buying this and that. Sometimes they don't have an intention. They don't have any intention. Okay, I'm spending on the family. But in Sharia, spending on the family without making an agreement with your husband, you don't have the right to ask for it. But if you make an agreement, you have the right to ask for it. When it comes to business, making contribution into a business or into the purchase of a house, her rights have to be respected and protected even if she makes no statement, if she makes no agreement. Do you see the difference between the two things, ya ikhwan? This is the fatwa that we use in North America. Most of the ulama, they go by with this formula. And usually people talk about these things at time of divorce. If there is no divorce, they don't talk about these issues. But they manage the other things, business and house, and everything is fine and dandy, so they don't talk about these things. But at time of divorce, yes, no, everyone start talking about, which is fine, because, and these are financial rights. These are financial rights. The husband doesn't have the right to oppress his wife and treat his wife with injustice, right? She has the right to care about her money, right? So it's fine. But we shouldn't, and sometimes, I feel sorry. There is a lawyer, a non-Muslim lawyer, who said, you guys, talking about our community, he said, you Muslims at time of divorce, you are very tough with each other. And this is true. There are non-Muslims, they go through divorce and they stay like they keep a friendly relationship. A friendly relationship, non-Muslims. They agree on everything, on the children and how to manage the custody and money and everything, and they do it in a friendly manner. But there are Muslims, ya Latif. Like he becomes a shaitan, she becomes shaitana, and they treat each other like enemies. And we suffer, the imams, we suffer, because we have to deal with these cases and issues and spend time with them and solving problems. And sometimes they don't listen to us, they go to the court and they solve their problems in the court. Yeah, and every case is different. But it's very, very sad. Anyway, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about taqwa in the surah of Talaq. Taqwa was mentioned 4 times. Taqwa, fear of Allah. He knows, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that when people are having a fight, dispute, they forget about taqwa. So Allah reminded Muslims about taqwa 4 times in the surah of Talaq. Talaq, which is divorce. Yeah. And even if you follow the path of taqwa, the other person is not following the path of taqwa, that's still okay, because on the day of judgment you are a winner. And when you deal with Allah, do business with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, at the end you will be a winner. You'll be satisfied. It's okay. But the other person, who cares? They will be taken to account for their own actions. Right? I'm going to fulfill my duties, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make a way out for me. وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. Whoever fears Allah, Allah will make a way out for him and will provide for him from ways he did not expect or she did not expect. So now we have only 10 minutes or less than 10 minutes. Do you have another question, or everything is fine? Sisters and brothers, yes?
So regardless of whether we should have life insurance and accident insurance, when there's a payout from life insurance, let's say somebody had a policy.
Okay, when there is a payout, there are 2 cases. When there is a payout from the government or from the from the company. There are two cases. If the beneficiaries, the name of the are specified in the document, then this money belongs to them. It's not inheritance. If مثلا the company said, if you tells the employee, if you at a time of death, this money will be given as a gift to your wife and to your children. So this money belongs to the wife and is not inheritance, and it is a gift from the company to the family, and it belongs to the children, right? If this money has, the document has no specific beneficiary, they said this is your money, a money that belongs to the employee, then it becomes part of inheritance. And all the inheritors have the right to have a share in this money. You see the difference, ya ikhwan? There's a big difference. A document that has specific names. We're going to give 50,000 to your wife and children. Then this money belongs to the wife and the children, 50,000. No other inheritors have the right to say, we have a share in it. But if this 50,000 is given to the employee in his name, then it becomes part of the inheritors. Is that clear? Yes. There is one brother who raised his hand before you, and I'll come back to you, inshallah. Yes.
About the wife, if she's
About?
the spouse.
Yeah.
There is two categories when she's contributing for food, regular, and there is the real estate side.
Yeah, property. She contributed into the purchase of property. Okay.
So if she contributing in the rent, so which category should we consider?
Rent is not a business or is not a purchase.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a monthly. She either volunteers to pay, or if she wants her money back, then she needs to tell her husband that this is a loan. Allah, because it is Islamically, it is his responsibility. We cannot escape it, cannot deny it, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed this responsibility on our children shoulders. Then we have to fulfill it and be a man and fulfill your duties. Yeah, Allah. Jazakumullah khair. Yes, we have 5 minutes. Sister, go ahead.
I think just to build on what the brother was asking, so in terms of beneficiaries, or even like sometimes for houses or things like that, let's say if I put, my husband's name or a certain person's name, but with the intention that they will be responsible to divide it based on, the inheritance laws, because or houses, for example, if I have a house and I put it in my husband's name, but I'm not really giving it to my husband, I want it to be part of my inheritance. Are those things that we need to write in a?
You need to specify that, yeah.
In a
Yeah, you need to specify that.
And if they don't execute it, then that's on the person.
Yeah, the person will be sinful if he goes against the will.
But then, yeah.
If he goes against your wish, then he will be sinful. And the Quran clearly mentioned that, yeah, that they will be sinful if they go against your wish or your will. It is their responsibility, yes. Yeah, but when you give, there is a problem here. She reminded me of another problem. There are parents who sometimes give gifts to their children. They give gifts. But they don't give them the gifts. They said, okay, they tell Ahmed, this piece of land, it's yours. But they don't write it down. There is no transfer of ownership. Ahmed doesn't own the house. It becomes part of inheritance. But if there is a transfer of ownership, because a gift does not become your property unless there is a transfer of ownership. Either you receive it in your hand, or if it is a piece of land or property, it has to be documented. The title has to be registered in your name. And then it becomes your property. It becomes your ownership. No one has the right to come after that at the time of death and say, this land used to belong to our father and it should be part of the inheritance. No, he gave it to me as a gift and it is in my name. right? But if there was no transfer of ownership, it will become part of the inheritance. And this is a big problem that we face sometimes with families who don't know how to manage these things. Yes?
And if there is a transfer of ownership, but no one knows about that, and the father still use that piece of land or that property for himself, and then profit from that property that he already gave.
So he gave it to a child?
But no one knows about
Yeah, but if there are documents, if there was transfer of ownership, well, that should be a good proof. Yani.
But normally, if I give a gift, so I don't need to use it again. After that, my son need to use that asset or profit from that asset. I don't need or I don't have to use it and profit from that asset, because sometimes people use that way just to make favor to some children.
Yeah, we talked about it, about favoring some children over other children. We talked about it. We talked about this concept. If you're giving gift to a child and you have other children, you need to give them the same thing. But let's say you have one child, one daughter, and you gave her a gift, right? Yeah, and she has a title. As no one, okay, there are some other inheritors, right? Her mother could be uncles. They don't have the right to say, okay, this land should be part of the inheritance, because she has a document. She has a proof that she received this land as a gift from her father. And he has the right to give his daughter a gift, right? There is no need for justice here because she is the only daughter. He has only one daughter, no other children. So different cases. When it comes to families, every case is unique. Yani. But now we need to know is the concepts, the general concepts, and then we manage our wealth or this concept of financial justice based on these concepts. Yes, brother?
Regarding zakat, so if I'm paying zakat usually in Ramadan, would my inheritors be responsible for paying zakat for me if I die, let's say 6 months after Ramadan?
If it is included in the will, yes, like say, that's a good question actually. That's a good question. There are people who delay the payment of zakat for good reasons, sometimes for no reasons, and it's haram when there is no valid reason. But let's say someone has inventory, like he's a businessman, he has a warehouse full of goods and items for sale, right? But he doesn't have cash. He doesn't have cash. And the market is very slow. He was not able to sell anything. He's not. So he's very slow. He's not. So, and he calculated the value of his trading items, urud al-tijara, stuff that he's selling. And it's a big amount of zakat, like it's $10,000. But he doesn't have cash. He cannot pay. So Islamically, he is allowed to delay the payment of zakat. But zakat becomes an obligation in Ramadan. If his anniversary, zakat anniversary in Ramadan, it becomes an obligation. The obligation is established. But he doesn't have cash now. Islamically, he's allowed to delay the payment for 3 months, 4 months, until he has cash in his hand. And then, let's say he passed away. This person is supposed to include this zakat in his will. To be careful, include it. Right? Then if it is in the will, they have the obligation to fulfill the will. If it is not in the will, they are supposed to fulfill if they know about it. If they know about it. If they don't know about it, Allah will not take them to account, right? But they don't have the obligation to pay it from their pockets. Is that clear? Jazakumullah khair.
Even before the anniversary, if Ramadan is in May, he paid zakat in May, and then he passed away in December, he should be paying zakat for 6 months.
No, I mean after zakat you pay it every year.
Okay.
You don't pay it after 6 months, every 6 months. So if he passed away, there is no zakat obligation there. His wealth becomes inheritance. It's not his money anymore. There is no extra obligation. He fulfilled his obligation in May. That's it. He has to wait till next May, till next Ramadan, right? But he passed away before. No obligation, no extra zakat obligation. طيب, so it's 9 o'clock, I guess. جزاكم الله خيرا, بارك الله فيكم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless your time and your effort and your families. And inshallah we'll see you on a different occasion.
Are you turned off?